Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. We will be talking about 10 features that we no longer see while technology advances. New features appear and old features disappear at a rate that is frequently quicker than we can keep up with. Before we know it, the thing we used on daily basis is gone. So let's get into it. Number 1. Bench seats. The front bench seat was once standard in American cars, but over time it disappeared, in part due to changing tastes and safety regulations. American automakers found themselves scrambling to meet demand for smaller, sportier cars with bucket seats that could compete with the European cars. A push towards safer vehicles in the 1970s also hurt the case for the bench seat. Automakers wanted to be able to install automatic seat belts and airbags in cars, and had a hard time making them for the center seat on the bench. Over time, carmakers crammed more stuff into the center console between the two bucket seats, everything from music players to climate controls and gear shifters. Consumers grew accustomed to the amenities. Today, few vehicles have front bench seats, and they are almost entirely trucks and full-size SUVs. Changes in technology are reopening the door to bench seats, and they have been spotted on some electric and autonomous concept designs. Number 2. Tailfin. Started on the Cadillac 1948, and spread to other models in the General Motors family. Soon it was adopted by other manufacturers. As confidence grew in the styling trend, the fins grew larger and bolder. The most extreme tail fins appeared in the late 1950s, such as on the 1959 Cadillac Eldorado and the 1959 Imperial Crown sedan. Many of automotive press and much of the public were getting weary of the exaggerated tail fins, and the manufacturers were ready to phase them out because they added cost and complexity to design and manufacturing. They disappeared and were replaced with a new style of taillight, called lobster claw taillights. Number 3. Antennas. When was the last time you saw a new vehicle with a retractable antenna? The longer the antenna, the better. It appears to be something to be proud of. Old vehicles were created mostly by Japanese automakers interested with technology. Having an electronic folding antenna on your automobile showed how technologically advanced you were. Car antennas are still used nowadays, although they are much different in appearance, either incorporated in the windscreen or directed to the back of the vehicle through a shark fin. Having these items gone isn't such a big deal. When you turned on the radio, most automated retractable antennas created a horrible noise that merely added to the drag on the road, although it was entertaining to see them go up and down on their own. Number 4. Split front windscreens. The split windscreen was assumed to have been designed for financial reasons, since it is cheaper and easier to produce than a single piece of glass. In 1936, General Motors made this standard on the majority of its cars. The split screen has become an iconic must-have addition on classic cars in recent years, particularly the VW Camper. Split screens are no longer allowed for manufacture, and even if they were, glass manufacturing technology has improved significantly. Number 5. Floor vents. In cars from the 1950s to 60s, air conditioning wasn't offered. Or at least it wasn't offered at a price most people could pay. Air ventilation was a must for warm weather driving in rain, and for smokers. Those cars had vent windows and floor vents, actually not in the floor, but the vent register was by the legs of the driver and front side passenger. They were operated by a plunger-type cable, from under the dashboard panel, to open and close. In many less expensive cars, air conditioning wasn't even an option. For modern cars either cheap or expensive, you don't need floor vents anymore. Having an air condition is standard on all models. Number 6. Full-size spare tire. This function is still present in some vehicles, but the majority of typical road cars have stopped bothering. The advantages of full-size spare wheels are that you may use them to replace a flat tire in your trunk, and keep driving for as long as you wish. Unlike today's spares, which are meant to be utilized for short trips at speeds of less than 50 miles per hour. Most people, though, were either forgetful or lazy and didn't do it right, leaving their spare on for months, if not years, without changing it. Until they arrive with their next puncture and discover I have a flat tire in the boots. Still, it's difficult for off-road vehicles, owing to the wear and tear that a four-wheel drive car could encounter on the trails. Number 7. Steel wheels. Today, alloy wheels may be commonplace. In the year 2000 though, it was still considered a luxury. On today's automobiles, all but the cheapest automobiles come with alloy wheels, with many mid-range cars excluding the steel wheel option entirely. Although they are still popular with business-led cars, many Audi and BMW vehicles don't bother with them. Obviously, steel wheels with hubcaps were standard issue until the early 1990s, since alloy wheels were an appealing but expensive alternative at the time. Today, lightweight alloy wheels enhance fuel efficiency, and most customers are willing to pay more for an attractive appearance. The one thing that can be said for a steel wheel is that if you bend one, replacing it will cost far less than an alloy wheel. Number 8. Pop-up headlights. For many years, the pop-up headlight was one of the most prominent features of the 80s and 90s sports or supercars, with icons such as the MX-5, Porsche 944, Lamborghini Countach, and RX-7, springing to mind for most people. The reality is, safety regulations somewhat killed off the pop-up headlight. This was mainly down to pedestrian safety regulations being tightened up, and having a sharp surface area was deemed to be too dangerous, so that's why most manufacturers didn't bother continuing with pop-ups. The problem lies where it's just too difficult to develop modern pop-up headlights to be in line with the new standards set by the European design laws. They require the front end of cars to be squishier in case of hitting a pedestrian. Although EU regulations don't affect cars that are made in the US, but it's much easier for manufacturers to follow global rules to ensure an one-size-fits-all scenario. Number 9. Fender mirrors. Fender mirrors are a great concept since they allow drivers to maintain their eyes on the road while driving. There are a couple of flaws in this design. However, there are certain issues, such as a lack of adjustability when driving or a significant sight distance between the driver's eyes. Until the late 1970s, Japanese automakers were big fans of this feature. Number 10. Quarter front glass. Many early closed cars had front and rear vent windows called ventiplanes, and were installed on all GM products that year. It can be opened for additional ventilation. 1933 was the first year all GM vehicles were installed with optional vent windows, which were initially called no-draft individually controlled ventilation, later renamed ventiplanes. Most vehicles since the 1960s have removed this feature for cleaner styling, known as ventless windows. Some automakers continued to offer vent windows, although the front venting windows provide unmatched ventilation, air turbulence and leakage outweigh the benefits. As automobile air conditioning became more popular, front window vents disappeared by the 1980s. Which feature did I forget? Do you have any of these features on your car? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one. Cheers.